How should left and right people talk to each other?
Well, left and right people should talk to each other as if they talk to themselves. Like, there's no particular reason to talk differently to someone because they're left or because they're right. And they should listen and they should disagree and agree. But I mean, by and large, civil, as long as it's within reasonable boundaries. And I think it is important that people set boundaries and say, well, I find this acceptable, I find this not acceptable.
Do you think that there's a communication problem right now between left and right people?
Well, I think the difference is primarily between those that like the establishment and those that don't, or more specifically between the populist and the non-populist. And one of the problems is that the populists consider the others as kind of corrupt and not legitimate, but increasingly the so-called Democrats consider the populist also as corrupt or as illegitimate. And so we don't really have a conversation, we don't listen. And you can even learn from people that you disagree with, but if your key argument is that, well, they're not a legitimate actor in the political arena, then you're also not going to think about, well, do they at least ask interesting questions?
Mm-hmm. So what do you think, what can we do to solve this problem so that the people don't listen to each other?
Well, I think first of all we should keep in mind that the problem is in certain countries very big, where countries are really polarized, like the United States. But in other countries, they're not really that big. Countries like Germany have a populist party of 12.6%. And while there are more people who are dissatisfied, there are still a lot of people who are satisfied and a lot of people who look to each other to come out of it. So I think it's important to listen to those who are on the other side and who are really unhappy, but we should also put things in perspective. Like, just because they're very unhappy and they're very loud doesn't mean that they're the only voice of the people.